what has happened, on the New Year's Eve, which was mentioned during the address that Maria Zakharova was talking about. The leaders, she said that the leaders of European Union and NATO should understand that their billions are killing civilians on New Year's Eve. And she's talking about the drone attack on civilians in the Kherson region. And there is a Alex, uh, is a there is an article in the New York Times somehow confessing that it's not just Europe but NATO together with the intelligence in the United States helping the attacks not only on Russian soil but also on these oil tankers, shadow, they call it shadow fleet. Where are we going with the case of the conflict in Ukraine? Because Donald Trump came in power on January 2025, and after 1 year, we've just wrapped up 1 year of the conflict under the Trump administration. Where are we going right now?
Well, I think we're going rapidly towards Ukraine's final defeat. And I think that everything that we see now happening are desperate attempts to derail Russian victory, to derail the cooperation between United States and Russia, because the New York Times piece that you mentioned, it also contained a passage that insinuates that Trump is involved in this, that Trump is actually uh, giving the green light for all these attacks on Putin's residence, on the tankers and so forth. This is almost certainly not true, but it would be, it would be useful to try to convince the Russian public that this is the case in order to derail the cooperation between the new administration in Washington uh, and the Russian counterparts. So I assume that a lot of what we know, or a lot of what we think we know, are psyops, and that these psyops are aimed at preventing peace from breaking out, because peace in Ukraine is a defeat of this, let's call it transatlantic Anglo American NATO strategy of attempting to destroy Russia. They lost. They understand that they lost, but they need a peace that will preserve their beachhead. So they need to try to gain an unconditional ceasefire to allow the Ukrainian and NATO troops to regroup and to rearm and to um, rebuild their fortifications. They need to preserve access to the port of Odessa and the main infrastructure assets of Ukraine, so that they can continue using Ukraine as a staging ground for attacks on Russia in whichever way, which will probably be terrorism, drones. It'll be probably trying to push drugs into Russia and biological weapons. And the objective is not to save Ukraine. They don't care about Ukraine. They don't care about preserving life of Ukrainian people. They don't care about improving the lives of Ukrainian people. All they care about is weakening and destabilizing Russia. And so this is the kind of peace that they are driving at, and a peace that was formulated between Vladimir Putin and Trump in Anchorage last August. That is a defeat for them. So I think that's why we see this increased activity in whatever they call asymmetric warfare, attacking the tankers, attacking Putin's residence, trying to assassinate leaders of the Russian government and Russian military. But I think that these are just panicked reactions, and I think that they don't change the strategic calculus which I think is now moving against them in a way that they cannot reverse. Well, they could if they manage to assassinate Putin or if they manage to assassinate Donald Trump. And they foreshadowed that. For Putin, it's not a mystery. The reason why Putin is a big problem for them is because he's not taking their bait, right? They would prefer to have somebody in the Kremlin who would maybe launch an attack on Brussels, on London, on NATO military bases in Europe, in Romania, in Poland, in Germany, and give them the pretext to invoke Article 5 of the NATO treaty. Putin will not make that mistake, so they would prefer somebody more radical in Kremlin who would give them the gift of World War III. And then Trump, you know, Vladimir Zelensky himself ran his mouth, I think, when he said, well, things are as they are now, but who knows, leaders die, nobody's there forever. And I think I think he was probably giving away the mindset of things that they discuss behind closed doors. And I
Exactly.
think that they are going to try to either wait out Donald Trump, eliminate him somehow, or derail his cooperation, the cooperation between his administration and the Russian government by propagating these news that say like, ah, yes, Trump is cooperating with the Russians, but he's really just kind of uh, disarming them in a way, trying to get them to relax their defensive stance, and then he gives the green light to Ukrainians to launch these attacks at Putin personally, terror attacks against Russia, against their shadow fleet, and so forth. But I think that the Russians are not stupid. They know how the game is played, and they understand who is their enemy, how they operate, and they will not fall for these dirty little tricks. And they understand how incredibly important it is for the United States and Russia to have good, constructive relationship, and they will work on that relationship.
Alex, I think one of the things that is obvious right now between Europe and the United States is that as Donald Trump came in power in the United States, after 1 year of his presidency, you see some sort of division between the United States and Europe. But the elites in the United States, they're trying to get closer as to Europe because they want to manage somehow the administration and the policies in the administration. How do you see how do you see the policies of the Trump administration today? And do you think that Europe understands what's going on? Do they realize the differences? I would say fundamental differences between the two.
I think they understand them very well. Um, I've observed that. Well, it started very early. Remember the meeting in Washington where Trump summoned the leaders of the EU, Germany, France, Great Britain, Poland, and he sat them all like little children around his desk, and it wasn't good optics for the Europeans. They were basically uh, being shown to the world to be irrelevant. What I have observed more recently is that some of the greatest war hawks in among the European leaders have been changing their rhetoric, and quite radically. So we saw Emmanuel Macron, who was, a few months ago, he was ready to send troops to Ukraine. He was offering France to lead the great war against Russia and to offer France's nuclear weapon as a protection against the Russians to European nations. Now suddenly he changes tack and he says like, oh well, I guess Russia is not an enemy, and we have to talk to the Russians, and we have to build a new security architecture that takes Russian security concerns into account, which is pretty much basically the foundation of the of what Trump and Putin agreed to in Alaska in August. So, strangely, it appears that Emmanuel Macron has come on board with the American approach. Then we had Finnish President Alex Staub, who was among the big war hawks, who was saying like, well, yeah, Russia is a rival, but not really an enemy, and we shouldn't expect Russia to invade Finland. Interesting. Then there was Boris Pistorius, same thing. He was ready to go to war against Russia not a few weeks ago. Now suddenly he's saying the same thing. Russia is a rival, but not really an enemy. They're not going to invade Europe, so everybody relax. And I heard another few people. So I thought that's really strange, and it's all happening at the same time. So I think that it's probably a result of pressure from the American administration, which I assume is related to the corruption investigations in Ukraine, because a few weeks ago they were talking about 100 million, that really splintered the leadership cabal around Volodymyr Zelensky in Kiev. But then they were saying like, no, well, it's actually tens of billions of US dollars of American taxpayer money that got laundered somewhere. And I'm convinced that they know exactly where it got laundered to, and that they are using this to pressure European leaders to heal, to give up their insane drive to war and to cooperate with the American policy. And so I think that this is the big change that is happening right now. And I think that the ultimate objective that the Americans and the Russians have is to completely change the security architecture on the European continent. And so I think that if they are successful, we're probably going to see a disintegration of NATO and the disintegration of the European Union. And I think that so I that's how I connect the dots, by observing what's happening. But we also have a little passage in the recently published National Security Strategy of the United States, which says that the United States intends to push back against the current direction of the development of European Union, so that they actually intend to actively oppose these uh, these developments from the European Union. I don't know what that means exactly, but I would assume that they will, consistent with other parts of the document of national security strategy, that they will work with the sovereigntist movements in countries like Britain, Germany, France, against the let's say the groups that support the global rules-based order. And so the picture that emerges is, it's spotty, but it's rather consistent. And so I've I've reached the conclusion that what Trump and his administration are doing is a real deal, that they are real opposition to this globalist rule-based empire which is trying to destroy Russia, and that the Americans are trying to steer the ship in a new direction. Of course, they have a lot of enemies, not just in Europe but also at home. Very, very powerful groups that have been among the main beneficiaries of the post World War II global order, who are completely loyal to this rules-based global order, who are loyal to the Davos clique, the City of London, the Brussels, European Central Bank, NATO, and so forth. and who will try to sabotage Trump's attempt. And we've already seen with the National Defense Authorization Act that was passed a few weeks ago that they already kind of hamstrung Trump by saying, "Oh, you cannot withdraw troops from Europe, and you have to continue funding the NATO, and you have to continue." They're trying to sabotage his change of policy. But we'll see. I think that the probably the biggest fight is 2026, and that fight is on the American domestic scene. Trump has to win the 2026 midterm elections, and a lot depends on that, because otherwise he's limited to executive orders, and all of those can be overturned by the next administration.